Bonjour tout le monde et bienvenue pour ce deuxième talk du Paris Container Day. J'ai avec moi Akihiro qui ne parle pas français, donc ce sera un talk en anglais. Hello Akihiro, how are you?
Fine.
Thank you to be here. Merci tout le monde déjà de nous rejoindre pour cette nouvelle édition du Paris Container Day, qui est une édition un peu spéciale du coup, puisque on est 100% en remote sur des créneaux donc du midi et du soir, sur 2 jours de conférence. Thank you everyone for being here. So it's a special edition of the Paris Container Day because we're going to talk about containers for 2 days and it's full remote. So the Paris Container Day is organized by Publicis Sapient and WeScale. And I'm going to introduce Akihiro, who we went out of our way to get him from Japan. He's a very good contributor in many different projects, Moby, BuildKit, Container Day, RunC. He's very active on GitHub if you want to see his page. And he very nicely accepted to come here and talk at the Paris Container Day. His talk is going to be about nerdctl, which is yet another Docker and Docker Compose implementation based on Container Day. Container D, sorry. Je refais la même en français du coup. Donc on a été chercher Akihiro au Japon, qui est un gros contributeur de plein de projets autour des conteneurs, donc Docker-D, BuildKit, Container-D, RunC, et donc il vient de sortir un nouveau projet qui s'appelle nerdctl, et donc une interface CLI pour Container-D. Et donc on a hâte de l'écouter parler. Akihiro, I'm gonna let you go ahead with your talk. Thank you very much for being here, and
Thank you.
And the stage is yours.
Thanks. Bonjour. Je m'appelle Akihiro Suda. J'habite au Japon. Je ne parle pas français, so let me give my talk in English. In this session, I will introduce nerdctl. Nerdctl is yet another implementation of Docker and Docker Compose based on Container-D. nerdctl is a subproject of Container-D, so you can find the repository of nerdctl under github.com/containerd. So what's nerdctl? It's not really a new container runtime. It's just a command line interface for Container-D with the same UI and user experience as Docker and Docker Compose. But unlike Docker, nerdctl and Container-D supports a lot of novel features that are not present in Docker, such as lazy pulling, which means running a container ahead of completion of pulling the image. nerdctl also supports running a container from an encrypted image. And of course, nerdctl supports rootless mode, which means running nerdctl itself and Container-D without root privilege. Rootless mode is not specific to nerdctl. It has been also present in Docker since 2018, but nerdctl has faster release cycles than Docker. So in future, nerdctl may have some enhancements ahead of Docker. I will show some demo of nerdctl run which is an equivalent of Docker run. And I've also shown a demo of nerdctl compose app. So the first demo is nerdctl -help. So you can see that the command line interface is very similar to Docker CLI. So just like Docker run, we have nerdctl run, and just like Docker build, we have nerdctl build, and other commands just like Docker. And nerdctl run -help. It's also similar to Docker run. And nerdctl info. This is also similar to Docker info. It shows the version of continuity and other stuff like thread driver, loading driver, and secret driver, and other information such as kernel version and host operating system information. And we run nerdctl run hello world. This is same as Docker run hello world. So it shows hello from Docker. It's not Docker, but the image is completely same as Docker. And nerdctl run -it -alpine. And within this alpine container, we can run commands like apk package manager, just like apk add favorite, and show bonjour message, just like this. And the next demo is compose demo. So we have Docker compose YAML. This is completely same as official Docker compose. So we have WordPress and MyDB defined in this YAML file. And we can use nerdctl compose just like Docker compose. So nerdctl compose app and nerdctl compose logs to show the logs. So it's now working. And WordPress is running on port 8080. So this is just a demo. So I don't create actual WordPress blog on this demo. So you can see that the WordPress and MariaDB is running using the Docker compose YAML file. So first, let me explain the architecture of nerdctl. So nerdctl itself is not a container engine. It's just a command line interface for containerd. And containerd is the universal container runtime used by several projects, including Docker, Kubernetes, BuildKit, and FastD. And all these applications works as a gRPC clients for the containerd daemon. And the containerd daemon calls runc, and runc calls the syscalls of Linux kernel to create containers. But containerd is not just a wrapper for runc. Containerd also manages images, file system snapshots, and the life cycles of the runc processes. So why do we need yet another Docker-like CLI if Docker is already built on containerd too? It's because Docker cannot support recent innovations in the containerd ecosystem, such as lazy print and encryption. Lazy print means running a container before completion of downloading the image and downloading the rest of the image on demand. But Docker is unable to support these features because Docker only partially uses continuity ecosystem, but not fully. So continuity provides continuity provides a runtime subsystem that wraps Francie, and the image subsystem that handles images and file system snapshots. But Docker does not use image subsystem, so Docker is unable to support the new features in this subsystem. On the other hand, nerdctl is fully built on the continuity ecosystem, so nerdctl can use the image subsystem as well as the runtime subsystem. So that's the reason why we had to create yet another CLI for the continuity ecosystem. It was not necessary to make it compatible with Docker CLI, but we designed it to be compatible with Docker CLI so that users do not need to run something new. And also, users can reuse existing shell scripts that were originally written for Docker just by replacing the Docker command with the nerdctl command. So some of you may already know CTL and CRI-CTL. CTL is the CLI included in continuity, and CRI-CTL is the CLI for the CRI API of Kubernetes. These CLI applications are also similar to nerdctl, but unlike nerdctl, CTL and CRI-CTL were made solely for debugging purpose. So CTL lacks lots of features of Docker, such as Docker run-p for exposing ports, and Docker run-restart always to create restartable containers. Also, CTL cannot read .docker/config.json under the home directory, so pulling and pushing images is not straightforward with CTL. And CTL even lacks support for reading container logs. And CRI-CTL has very similar restrictions too. But nerdctl covers all these features. So some of your audiences may think that the goal of the project is to defeat Docker, but actually that's not the goal. The goal is to just provide comfortable environment for playing around with the modern ecosystem of continuity, such as lazy pulling and ocicrypto. And these features are expected to be eventually available in Docker as well, but not soon. There was some effort to modify Docker to use continuity for image management, but it was not merged into the upstream. One of the reasons was that it seemed really hard to support live upgrading from existing versions of Docker. Let's look into the modern features of control such as lazy pulling. So lazy pulling means running a container ahead of completion of pulling its image from the registry. It just fetches minimal data for bootloading, and other data are fetched lazily on demand. This is accomplished by introducing a new image format called eStarGZ. eStarGZ was forked from Google's StarGZ, which means seekable tarGZ. StarGZ and eStarGZ are compatible with the legacy Docker image format, but contains extra metadata for supporting fetching data on demand. This slide shows starting up time of several containers such as GCC, Glassfish, Python, and RethinkDB. With the legacy format, starting a GCC container takes more than 40 seconds, but with eStarGZ, it's less than 10 seconds. And it can be shortened to 5 seconds with optional optimization. The benchmark result is similar for other workloads, such as Python as well. And here is actual demo of lazy pulling. I show a demo of eStarGZ using a Python image from GitHub container registry. So with this image, we only download files that are needed for printing hello world. So we run nerdctl --snapshot /gz run --rm ghcl.io /gz containers /python and run Python 3 command with print function for some hello world text. And it just takes less than 10 seconds. It's just 9.6 seconds. And for comparison, we pull legacy Python image from the same registry. And it takes a very long time. So with eStarGZ, we needed less than 10 seconds, but legacy version is taking very long time. So 30 seconds has passed, but it's still not completed. And the 1 minute has passed. And it's completed. So it took 65 seconds. As shown in the demo, eStarGZ is really fast. So it just requires 9.6 seconds. But the legacy version takes more than 1 minute. And the next topic is ocicrypto. So it's a format and a library for transparently encrypting and decrypting OCR images. this is beneficial when you can't trust the privacy of the image registry. And nerdctl provides support for decrypting ocicrypto images by default. On the other hand, encryption is not straightforward as decryption, but we will see improvements on the user experience for encryptions soon. The next topic is to run nerdctl on macOS for running Linux containers, just like Docker for Mac. So to support running nerdctl on macOS, I made something like WSL2, but for macOS hosts. It's called Lima, Linux virtual machines on macOS. So Lima is very similar to WSL2. So Lima supports sharing file system and also automatically forwarding TCP ports. Lima was made for running nerdctl and containerd on macOS, but Lima can be used for other purposes as well. Lima is currently hosted at my own GitHub account, github.com/Akihiro Suda/Lima, but this may change in future. And the project name may change as well, mostly because there is yet another project with the same name. So let me show the demo of Lima with nerdctl. So my host is running Darwin. So I mean running macOS, and on this macOS host, Lima uname-a runs the uname command on a Linux virtual machine. So Lima uname-a shows Linux as a guest OS. And we have some Docker file on a host file system, /user/suda/pcd/lima demo. So we have some Docker file and some index.html file to be copied into nginx image. And Lima nerdctl build to build image from the host file system. And we can use Lima nerdctl run to run the container using Lima. And the port 8080 on the macOS host is automatically forwarded to the Linux guest. So as you can see, the user experience of Lima nerdctl is completely same as nerdctl. So you don't have to care about file system. You don't have to care about TCP ports. So the user experience is really like Docker for Mac or WSL2. And this slide shows how Lima works under the hood. So Lima is not really something innovative. It's just a thin wrapper for QEMU with HBF accelerator. HBF is something like KVM, but for macOS hosts. HBF works on both Intel Mac and ARM Mac, but ARM Mac requires QEMU to be patched to use HBF at this moment. But if you use Intel Mac, you don't need to apply any patch to QEMU. And file system sharing is implemented using a technique called reverse SSHFS. It means running SSHFS with -o slave so that SSHFS can speak the SSHFS protocol over standard I/O. So this is the opposite direction of traditional SSHFS. But in future, this will be probably replaced with virtual I/O 9P PCI device provided by QEMU. And port forwarding is implemented by having the guest agent process and the host agent process. The guest agent process watches /proc/net TCP inside the Linux guest every 3 seconds. And the host agent running on macOS executes SSH-L on demand to set up port forwarding. The next topic is nerdctl on Windows. nerdctl is already known to work on WSL2 for running Linux containers. And we also have a PR to support running Windows containers. I hope we will be able to merge this PR within a couple of weeks, or maybe within a couple of months. So let me recap my talk. nerdctl is a Docker-compatible CLI for containerd. nerdctl has exactly same UI and UX as Docker and Docker Compose. But unlike Docker, nerdctl supports modern ecosystem of containerd, such as lazy print, which means printing the images on demand. And nerdctl also supports ocicrypto images. And of course, nerdctl supports rootless containers as well. So to getting started with nerdctl, please visit github.com/containerd/nerdctl, and please download nerdctl-full-version-linux-amd64.gz. This binary archive contains all the dependencies such as containerd and Francie. So just extract this archive under /user/local, and you are all set. And to run nerdctl, you can choose rootful mode or rootless mode. Rootless mode means running the entire environment without the root privilege. So it's more secure, but has drawback on network performance. For rootful mode, use sudo systemctl to search containerd, and just use sudo nerdctl run to run containers. For rootless mode, you don't need sudo, so you have to use containerd rootless setup tool.sh to set up containerd and run nerdctl run without sudo to run containers. So usage of rootless nerdctl is same as sudo nerdctl, but for rootless mode, probably you can't use privileged ports like port 80. So you have to choose another port like 8080 instead of 80. For further information, please refer to github.com/contribute/nerdctl. And we have Slack channel for the entire Continuity project on CNCF Slack, slack.cncf.io. And thanks to the contributors, the nerdctl project was not possible without these contributors, and we are looking for new contributors. That's all of my talk. Thanks for listening. Merci.
Thank you, Akihiro. Great talk. I'm gonna hop in the chat to see if we have any question. I see people complimenting you on your French at the beginning, so that was great. And Nuno Carmo just said that there's a WSL2 blog incoming. I guess you know him because it looks like you know him. But I don't see any question for now. We may wait for a minute or two, but otherwise we'll close the session. Yeah, it is said that the talk was very clear, and it doesn't seem like there's any question. Yeah, people like your talk. Thank you a lot, Akihiro. It was a pleasure to have you with us, and hopefully we'll meet some of you guys in the projects on GitHub because they're looking for contributors. That would be nice. And thank you for nerdctl as well, and thinking of all the other things around security, macOS ports, and Lima. Thank you very much, Akihiro. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye. Merci.